welcome to Geek on Film with your host, Robbie Holmes. Hey there, folks. Welcome to episode 6 of season 4 of Geek on Film. I'm Robbie Holmes, and this week we have a special guest appearance by an old friend.
Hello, everyone. It's John Hosch. I'm happy to be kind of coming back as a guest. I'm so happy to be continuing to hear the podcast. I was traveling the country with a Broadway production, so I was a little out of pocket and also had a baby and have another one on the way. So a lot of things are happening, but they're all good. And I'm happy to be back and chatting with my dear friend. And, you know, repping the Geek on Film sweatshirt and the Geek on Film mug. So hopefully the merch store is still open and people can get these.
It is, yeah. John is rocking the original logo, old school 1.0.
Yeah, retro. It's retro now.
Retro. I literally today am wearing my Geek on Film t-shirt, which is the giant head of Robbie.
Yes.
Which is my favorite new logo. I figured, me and ChatGPT made a great logo here. Eventually, you'll be able to buy it.
Nice.
All right. Well, so it's really good to have you back. John's amazing. I was lucky enough to see him at a couple of times in the last couple of years while he's been out and about and gallivanting. But one of the best ones was in the Kennedy Center in DC before we left and moved. Got a chance to hang out with the cast after the fact, meet the lead of the show, but also just how many aspects of the show John has been a part of, from Broadway all the way to the touring cast, and then how much ended up falling on his shoulders, becoming sort of so many aspects of the road show, right? The
Actors Equity. Yeah. It was the first national tour of the production of Life of Pi that was touring the country. And I was the U.S. Associate Puppetry and Movement Director and the resident director, as well as some other things. So,
yeah, I mean, good times. He has one head yet many hats. It's impressive.
But excited to be back.
Yeah, this is great. The reason that is because this week we're going to be talking about Predator Badlands. And if you remember, John forced me to watch a terrible amount of terrible movies back in the day. So when I was on my way to sit down and see it in IMAX, I got a text message that said, "That is awesome." So not to give away John's position, but like anything with the word Predator in it is probably going to be a positive.
Yeah.
But it was exciting for me to be literally walking into a theater and having John text me. And I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. You should come on the podcast. So I'm so glad you agreed. I can't wait to hear your opinion. I expect it to be effusive, but we shall see.
Yeah, I love the first Predator is a movie that I have downloaded on every single one of my mobile devices just in case I want to watch it at any given time. I've been a big fan. Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty crazy. Like, I had never seen Predator 2, Predators, Requiem, Alien versus Predator. I had never seen any of those movies, and John absolutely has always championed them as one of his favorite series. And then recently I went to a Real Deal Film Society, which is the sort of meetup group here in Phoenix that I go to. And we were all doing intros. And one of the things was like, what is one of your favorite films? And there's a guy there who's very funny, and I think a very contrarian guy by default. He loves to debate. Uh-huh. And he was like, all right, my favorite movie. And it's because at 11 years old, I went to the theater and I saw the most perfect movie that had ever been made, that exists forever. And he, like, the preamble was amazing. And then he said Alien versus Predator. And I was like, you are not to be trusted. You are 100%. No one can trust your film opinions. And he was like, I was 11 and I wanted a movie where things happened. I didn't need to care about it. It was unbelievable. And it was just so funny to have that be his perspective. And I was like, I guess you're allowed that, but it was very hard for me to take him seriously after that. And that's where I stand with my friend John.
Fair enough.
Pretty great.
But I'm excited to talk about this new one. Yeah.
Yeah, this one's really a surprise, but it shouldn't be based on who we know made it and all the other stuff. So let's talk a little bit about some TV that you've watched up to this point. I haven't gotten a chance to see it, so I think you're watching the new It series, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Welcome to Derry. Welcome to Derry, I think is the official title. This is it's really cool. It's a prequel to the two It movies that we've seen, which is also a novel, and it was also a TV show that or a TV miniseries that starred Tim Curry. But this really dives into the mythology and the history of not only it, but also the what it means to like the history of dairy. And it's really interesting. It's bouncing through a couple different time periods, but they're kind of focusing on kind of a generation before the movie takes place, and really like not too spoilery, but the military is trying to find it, and that's kind
Okay.
of a big part of this storyline so far is that like they're trying to weaponize it, so they need to find it, and it's really
It's
interesting.
it's so Googleable,
Yes,
it's
yeah,
just it forces you to say the word it with like emphasis. You're like,
yeah,
it's looking for it.
yeah,
And Google is just like, I don't recognize. Why did you put
yeah.
emphasis on that? Like, yeah.
But some of the things that I'm really appreciating about this show is I never watched the show Castle Rock. That was another Stephen King kind of a shared universe show. Castle Rock is another town in a lot of Stephen King's mythology, as well as Derry. But one of the characters from The Shining is a main character in this as a younger version of him. The janitor from The Shining, who has The Shining, is a
Yeah.
major character in this, and it's really cool. And also, Shawshank, the prison, is right outside of Derry,
Oh
so
wow.
they reference Shawshank. So it's I'm really enjoying. I have never read a Stephen King novel, and I think that they are like he's very verbose and they're very vast and they're quite intimidating to me to read. But I'm always intrigued by the mythology that he has created and how it's all interconnected. So I'm really enjoying where this is going, and it's like it has appeared, but not in the form of the clown yet. So it's very
Okay.
cool to kind of see all the different like because it is a shapeshifter
Mhm.
as one of their many powers. So it's really I'm really enjoying it. It's very much there is like, but I think the movies had this too, where there's a little bit of Stranger Things vibe, a little bit of
Yep.
Goonies vibe, but with a more horror aspect to it, and I'm enjoying it. I mean, I look for it's one of those things where I look forward to every Sunday seeing a new episode. So
That's exciting. I
yeah.
would say that I recently I we're not going to talk about here much, but I watched Alien Earth, and I felt like that was a show that
Mm,
like for me it didn't fulfill what it could have been. Like it
yeah.
wasn't as fun as I was hoping, but it had some amazing concepts. Like I think anything that is in the alien ecosystem, that has anything to touch on the Weyland Yutani of it all, or any of the other pieces, as long as it has something new and interesting to bring to the table, I'm happy to have watched it. And I feel like my walk away from that show was like not as good as I was hoping, but boy, there was a lot of ideas. And that's a Noah Hawley thing. Like I think that creator should be allowed to like brainstorm, run a writer's room until they write the pilot and they break the rest of the season and then kick him out and be like, now we're going to rewrite the rest of the season. Cause like we don't, the pilot's great, the concept's great. Like knock it off on episode 7, right? Like, but like such a cool experience. And I'm excited because it sounds like getting something that is a prequel that is filling in some more information that is actually exciting and feels like you're getting something new is really cool, right? Like
Yeah.
we often reference like I think you and I talked about it at the time. Like I feel like Solo made the universe smaller, right? Like it
Mm,
didn't actually increase the story, right? Like you went from that movie ending to like he's getting in his ship and he's going somewhere to maybe talk to Jabba, and you're like,
right.
did so nothing happened between the end of this movie and the like, so it essentially like also seeing like the Kessel Run, right? Like you're like that didn't get cooler in my mind because I saw it, so
Yeah.
you actually took away my ability to have some excitement about it. Like I feel like in this you're getting a chance to see like it unfold, so it's giving you more. And I feel like Alien Earth was in a similar situation where like as much as I didn't love where it went, it had some ideas that I thought were so mind expanding for the universe that you could bring these forward, hopefully without all the baggage of what Alien Earth left us. So like I think we can talk about that later, especially with Dan and with what's going on in Badlands. Like Dan Trachtenberg seems to be getting to be in an interesting position where he may have something to say about that.
Yeah.
So I'll jump over and I'll mention Pluribus. I cannot read you the synopsis off of IMDb because it will give away too much. What I will say is the creator is Vince Gilligan. If you have liked or watched anything having to do with him, you will get a sense immediately of the competency of the approach of this show. Like it opens with a writer who is at a reading of her book, and you quickly figure out that she's had enough of her own crap. She thinks that what she's doing is garbage. It feels very fluffy, and it's her and her partner, and you follow them until an incident unfolds, and it's so competently shot. Like that's the thing when you see somebody who has the amount of experience that Vince has creating stories and telling stories and bringing ideas to light. Seeing him bring something to light that's a little bit off kilter and not a grounded story is so interesting because he can't help but keep it grounded. There's an incident that happens, there's all this stuff that changes, but everything feels so real and practical. And like that is an amazing part of like sci-fi storytelling or something akin to genre storytelling, but keeping it grounded and making it feel real no matter how big the concept is something I think Vince Gilligan can do that a lot of other creators probably couldn't. So I feel so much like I'm in safe hands, and I can't wait to watch episode 2 because episode 1 gave me so much. There's like, it opens with a ticking clock that is going down. And that is like an interesting approach. Like you walk in, you're like tension already. 3 seconds into show, there's a clock that says like 429 days. And you're like,
Oh, wow.
that's a long time, right?
Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
but then there's a jump to like 300 days later, like 100 days in. So you get the sense of like, you're about to learn something, but it's like, this feels like if you wanted to take it to film school and say like, if you want to build narrative tension and you want things to move quickly across a longer time period, this is the kind of way that you could approach something like this. I don't want everything to become this show, but boy, people could learn a lot, I think, from the approach that Gilligan is taking in this show and how well it's cast. Like every person, every small role feels like a real person, right? Like everybody who's under 5 feels like they are not sort of a background actor. They feel vetted. Well, they feel like they're a person playing that happens to be in a television show, like a real human. And I think that is, again, like a testament to like second unit acting, right? Like it's crazy how much is going on in this show and how competently and confidently it is moving forward without letting any cats out of any bags. That, you know, like I think there's a restraint in the way that this show is being unfolded to us as an audience. And I'm excited to see where it goes. Like the opening salvo is pretty amazing.
And this is the writer creator of Better Call Saul, right?
Yes.
And
Yep.
ipso facto, I guess Breaking Bad, or yes, no.
Yeah. So he created Breaking Bad and moved on to Better Call Saul. Yeah.
Cool. Well, those are great
just
shows.
a shout out. Like Rhea Seehorn is Carol Sturker, who's the author that we follow, and she is just so grounded in this universe and so frustrated by where she is and what she's doing as a successful author of like romance novels. It's funny to see somebody who you get to see behind the curtain of like, you know, the people who love this person's work are like excited and ready to talk to her, and it's a book signing, and at the end of it she's just like, okay. Walks out and gets into the car, and there's a great line where the Uber driver is just like, should I know you? And she's like, do you like crap? Like, and it's just so so many creatives get so frustrated by the things they create or not the thing they want to be creating, and it felt so right in that moment. I was like, oh god, I know exactly where she is, you know. And it's cool. It's such great shorthand storytelling to be like, I get it, I know where we are, you know. And that's like what I feel like every aspect of this show has been for me, is like you are on a train that is guided, but you feel like you have no sense of where it's going, but you're confident it's going to get there. And that's pretty cool. You know, you don't always get that in a pilot episode.
Yeah, that's awesome. And,
yeah, it was really fun.
I think as we're recording this, 2 episodes are out right now, right?
I think there's a second episode out. I only watched the pilot so far, but I'm on. Like I'm often in for anything that Vince is going to do. I say that without watching Better Call Saul, but it got away from me. It is a show that I didn't jump directly on the bandwagon, and it went away. So it's like one of those that I will likely use as a plain show for a while. Like I will whenever I'm flying places, I feel like I'm going to turn Better Call Saul into my airplane watching.
Right. Cool. Awesome.
All right, so we'll jump over to our first movie. Both John and I got to see Frankenstein, so we can talk about how we got there. But let's start with the synopsis. So, our friends at IMDb have this as Dr. Victor Frankenstein, a brilliant but egotistical scientist, brings a creature to life in a monstrous experiment that ultimately leads to the undoing of both the creator and his tragic creation. Spoilers, come on. Um, but it's also hard to spoil something from the 1930s. Here we go. It was written and directed by Guillermo del Toro, also written by, of course, Mary Shelley as the original author. So this would be an adapted screenplay if it goes that far. I have it as 3.5 stars over on Letterboxd. My review was very beautiful. The production design is astounding. I really enjoyed this version of the story, and Jacob Elordi is impressive in this film. So short but sweet from me. Let's go first high level impression from you, John. What was your thoughts on this movie?
I really love the story of Frankenstein. I think it's one of the few novels that actually scared me when I read it, and I've enjoyed iterations of Frankenstein prior to this. I enjoyed it. It was interesting. I think I would have wanted to see this on the big screen.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I've got like the greatest TV, and I wonder if my experience was affected by that. There was something about like the sets are incredible, the costumes are incredible. There was something about like the quality that made it feel very much like I was watching a BBC show
Yeah.
on TV
I think
on my television.
so. One of the things I was thinking about is like the movie came across to me as like a dark fairy tale or a fable and less of a
Sure.
real storytelling. And I think the sets and the choice of like lenses and things like that to me lent to that idea of like a dark fairy tale, not the real world. Like when
Hmm.
you think about the castle that he goes to, right?
Yeah.
It is a CGI'd castle that he eventually takes over because I don't think you could find a castle that looks that that bedraggled and but like that still was functional. And everything about that feels like you're sitting in this amazing set when you're inside of it, but from outside of it, it almost could have been a painted set from like the 1940s
Yeah.
because it is 100% this creation that is being made in a camera and not actually physically a building, right? There may be some guts of that building, but I am sure it is like highly accentuated. So it almost feels like there's like a digital facade thrown over the top of it that
Yeah.
adds this like otherworldly feeling to everything I was watching. So I think playing along, it's a little bit less maybe the specific television, but I think it's the choice of the way that it is framed. It
Hmm.
almost feels like you're turning a page on like a fairy tale from your childhood and you have this image of a building that happens to be in the world. And that was like I kept coming back to this idea of it felt to me like this visualization of a dark fairy tale,
Yeah.
and that's in Guillermo's ballpark. It's not surprising.
Totally.
Yeah.
And
So,
he,
sorry.
oh, I was just gonna say, I've seen him in interviews saying how this is one of the stories that he's been like dying to tell his version of for quite a long time. I think he sees himself as the monster, or as perhaps as Frankenstein, or maybe both. But
I think both. Yeah. The
yeah,
dichotomy of this, I think, is reality for him is that he's both sides of this, right? He's the
yeah,
creator and the thing that is being created.
yeah. I really enjoyed Oscar Isaac's performance. I felt a bit like Mia Goth was a little subdued, or maybe it was
Yeah.
just like in the editing or the writing, but I felt like her character was not as strong and prominent that I remember in other iterations of this story, or even in the novel. But it's been quite a long time since I've read it.
Yeah. I think I agree. I would say it feels to me like Oscar Isaac was told like be the arch component of this story, and
Hmm.
Mia Goth was told like be reserved and be sort of like above it all, and that was the overarching tone of both of their performance. Like Oscar feels so arch and like over the top, and the way he's like, it's all this like crazy dramatic facial expressions and physicality in the way that he's playing the character. And then you get to Mia, and she's like this very like reserved, stoic, quiet version of what Mia Goth could be,
Yeah.
and like a painted porcelain doll, like in the way that she's appointed, all of her clothing, right, her costuming, it's beautiful, and like she is able to hold the frame. Like she reminds me of like Anya Taylor-Joy. They have this ability to be like still and quiet and still interesting to look at, and I think
Hmm.
like Mia Goth is bringing a lot of that in this movie, but it's very different, I think, than the world of where Dr. Frankenstein is, right? Elizabeth feels like you're bringing this solace and quietude in like a piece of marble into an environment that's dynamic, you know?
Yeah, I enjoyed a lot of the changes in the script that Guillermo has kind of altered from the novel. There were some aspects that I really thought were cool. I don't recall Mia Goth's character's uncle ever being a character until this production, and
Uh-huh.
he's kind of a bit of a. It seems like he's kind of a warmonger in a
Uh-huh.
sense, and he's funding Frankenstein's work, and you don't really know why. And I thought that was a really interesting character, and I haven't fully kind of dissected that whole idea of like weaponize, like like being funded by someone to create life. I don't know. There's something
Yeah.
there
And
that I think
if
I want to
if Guillermo sees
dissect.
himself in the Doctor, right? What is he telling us that he has had to do? Who has he worked for to
Yeah,
make his art, right?
yeah,
Like I think there's a lot of like what are you willing to do to create your creature, your
hmm,
monster, you
yeah,
know? There's a lot of weird, like very overt tones that are subtle, is the way I would put it. Like here's a big idea, you get to decide what it means to his storytelling without him telling you what it means, right? Like,
yeah,
so here's this idea, like a warmonger is going to fund this because he's the only person that believes in this, but it's because he has this motivation, right? He wants to be able to possibly move into a body of his own.
yeah,
And I think, there's also that, like so many of the people who are funding great art want to be in that art, right? Like it's an interesting, I think there's a lot of plays that are going on in his choices in this script.
yeah, yeah. And I will say, although I don't condone the way that Frankenstein treats the monster when he's like learning how to be alive. But
Yeah.
as someone who has a young boy, there was a bit of a catharsis there. But I was like, I would never do this. But I understand.
That's really funny. Hey, you only know one word.
Yeah.
Say something else.
So
One thing we didn't call out, Jacob Elordi was really, in my opinion, his physicality
yeah.
and the level of emotion and the silent acting he does in the first 50 minutes of the movie is really change I wasn't expecting. Like when he was cast and when the announcement went out, I think it was a little bit of the like, Michael Keaton is going to be Batman. Are you kidding me?
Mm,
Like I think the idea of like this beautiful tall man is going to play this hideous monster. What he embodied is this like vulnerable physical creature in a way that I was really impressed with. I think from the moment you see the light and the spark happen in the creature's eyes to the moment where he's burned and
mm,
is wrapped in, like those moments are visceral. Like
yeah.
he is like embodying the physicality of emotion and the drama in his body of the story that he's telling. Like his ability to move, like his frame, he's so tall and long, and watching him like slink across animal like as the default way that he knows to move because he's never been taught, right?
Yeah.
He was fully formed in a fully large body. So
Yeah.
he didn't never have the awkward learning phase. So we are seeing that, but he has this innate physicality to him that he can bring forward in the character. I just was watching him play with the water and watching him like all of those pieces of like his dramatic movement of those long limbs, and let it, and Guillermo like sort of luxuriating in his physicality, like this, the length of his limbs, the size of his frame, and then putting him under the like the wraps near the end where he's wearing like the coat and the this and the stuff he's taken from the wolves, and like you get this like layered creature, but
Yeah.
like underneath all of that is this lean, beautiful person, right? Like, and I think that's also part of the monster story, right? Like you get this beauty inside and the creature on the outside, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's a really cool way that he's able to bring forward an actor like a Jacob Elordi gets to play a character that you normally probably wouldn't cast him as.
Yeah, I've seen him in other things and just did not clock how physically imposing he is as a presence. And I don't know if that's they did that with like camera angles and everything, but seeing him on the red carpet for this, I was like, good God. I actually didn't recognize him from other things that I've seen him in. Seeing him do the red carpet for Frankenstein, and I immediately was like, oh, they went out and they found someone to be
Yeah.
Frankenstein, and I just didn't realize it's impressive. He's I think
Yeah.
it's I think I think his performance might be my favorite of the movie.
Yep.
And all in all, I thought I think it's really great. I think that I think for me, I just think I want to see it on the big screen.
Yeah.
You
I think
know.
I missed out. We had talked about it, Amy and I chose to go see Blue Moon
Mm.
and Predator Badlands because she like gave me a day to be like, hey, let's why don't you program a film festival day because you haven't gotten to go to one. So I went early in the morning to see Blue Moon, and then I saw Predator Badlands, and then came home and finished Frankenstein. We had started it the night before, so I was like literally halfway through the movie, and came home, had dinner, and then what we watched after dinner was the end of Frankenstein, which is
Mm.
really cool. So I had a 3 movie day, which I haven't had in a while.
Nice.
But my history with Frankenstein is as a 12-year-old. I think I read the 89-page novella that I think was one of the versions of this that
Hmm.
came out of Mary Shelley, and it was an early book that I read. So it's like in my literature past, also it's one of those that I have a lot of affection for.
Yeah.
And I think you
Yeah.
mentioned it, like there's been so many incarnations of Frankenstein, but there's also been so many stories that are the Frankenstein story that it's
Totally.
interesting to put this in the pantheon of a Frankenstein type story. I think this doesn't sit in the top of that, but I do think in direct adaptations, I would say this is probably in the top 5 versions of Frankenstein I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I still think it's like 3.5 stars for me, but I would probably say if I got to see it in 35 on a good screen with good sound, it would probably go up to a 4.
Yeah.
Um, I think it also would give you more distance from the wolves. I think the wolves were a little bit harsh as something that felt like the dark fairy tale. It almost felt like they were machinations out of somebody's brain. Like they didn't
Mm.
feel like real wolves to me. And the way that the creature interacts with them and like physically destroys one is off-putting, but it's also great because it shows how ferocious the creature can be when they need to be. So I
Yeah.
think they're on purpose. They exist for a good reason. Because we haven't seen that side of him up to that point, and I think it's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think let's stop there and jump over to Predator Badlands. So if you had to give this a star, where would you say it is out of 5?
4.4.5.
Nice, that's great.
Yeah.
That's an exciting place to be, man. I don't get a ton of those. All right, let's jump over to Predator Badlands. So our main review today, as you've heard us allude to, is Predator Badlands. Our friends at IMDb have this as a young predator outcast from his clan finds an unlikely ally on his journey in search of the ultimate adversary. I have my so it's written by Patrick Ailson, Dan Trachtenberg, and Jim Thomas, who I believe is the creator of the characters, and then Dan Trachtenberg is the director. I have this is a 4 star with a heart, and I said the first 30-ish minutes felt like a cutscene from a great video game. Once Elefanting arrived, the tone shifts, and I liked it even more. Where do you stand, John?
Yeah. To just jump onto what you just in your review.
Yep.
Um, so yesterday, I was talking to an older gentleman who had never seen a Predator movie,
Ooh.
and
Are you going to make them watch a bunch of terrible movies too?
well, I don't have to because he has a 13-year-old son, and he,
Ah, nice.
and so he went to go see Predator Badlands. I goes, "Oh, what did you think?" He said, "I really really liked it," and he said from someone who has no idea about Yautjas or the Wayland Yutani Corporation or anything. He said, "Man, when the movie started, I thought this was going to be the most soulless movie I was about to watch. And then he said, and then I ended up really loving it.
Yeah.
And I can see that, it's like the movie starts off and we're following Deck, who is our main predator.
Yep.
And it's just a big fight scene with him and his brother.
Yep.
Um, and I think it's a great fight scene,
Oh
but
yeah.
their faces are covered, so you don't, that's really difficult a lot of times. Like people always kind of in film and everything, the eyes tell so much of the story, and it's a way for the audience to connect with the characters. So they're in these masks and they're fighting. It's very dark, and they're speaking the Yautja language. So there's a lot to like. There's a lot of walls that we have to get through. But then when we get to the spaceship and we're interacting with both of them, that's when it really clicked in for me. And I
Yep.
think it's something really bold that Dan's doing. Is prior to this, predators, Yautjas, were like the silent, scary killer. Like the first Predator movie is kind of, it's a analogy for Vietnam, and how like American troops didn't know who they were fighting because they were not used to guerrilla warfare. So like I think up until the animated film that just came out that Dan wrote, Killer of Killers, I think that the predators were never the main character of their story. It's always the human element that people were wanting to focus on, and how they were dealing with the predator. And
Yep.
I think they tried a little bit in Predator versus Aliens to kind of make the predator a hero, and kind of like that was kind of the first time that predators were kind of a good guy because they were fighting the aliens. But man, just like being able to like have two young Yautjas who are brothers talk about like their dynamic, their
Yeah.
like their conflicts and everything. I think a lot of people who love this franchise don't want that. They're just like, no, they're the badass killers. But
Yeah.
I think it was really a smart move to like be like, no, we need to go deeper with this character, or these Yautjas, if we're going to perpetuate moving forward and expanding this universe, which I definitely think they can after this, especially. So
Yeah, I think the thing I would say is like watching this movie, knowing where it came from, right? You and I both were fans of the Totally Rad show back in the day, so we've known Dan Trachtenberg for a long time. We both saw, uh, was it 18 Cloverfield, 10 Cloverfield Lane?
right,
We watched that movie. We knew what it was, but it also was like we knew the marketing around that, which is like they could have not put the word Cloverfield in it, and it would have been such a cool reveal.
yeah,
And the idea originally, the original marketing was going to be, it wasn't. So we've been on the Dan Trachtenberg tip for a long time, right? Like
yeah,
even his the short that he made around Portal, right? The
hmm,
the live action 8-minute Portal video to prove that technology out. So I've been on board with what he's been trying to accomplish. He, like, J.J. Abrams fell in love with him and brought him into his production world, right? Like, all that being said, Prey is probably my favorite of the Predator movies up to this point, and that's Dan's baby, right? Like,
yeah,
he had this idea from the very beginning about like, we want to see the other stories that the Ouch have been a part of, and in that world, right, he sort of hit the normal Predator approach of like, we have humans at the center of this story, they're the heroes, right? We have this mystical creature that arrives in a magical ship, right?
you're right,
And it could have been anything. The fact that it was the Yautja, and it fit the Predator mold. And
hmm,
then what's really cool is watching that evolve into Predator Killer of Killers, where you actually get to see the different stories of how we got all of these people to be interacting with the Yautja. And the Yautja are still a little bit the sort of boogeymen in all these
yeah,
stories.
yeah,
And then to turn the corner here and you open on, well, we open and we're in a movie where there's not a single human, right?
yes,
There's no humans in the whole movie. There are humanoid creatures, but they're not human.
yeah,
I think that is one. I think your friend who said that like he was worried it was going to be the most soulless movie. I think that is part of the setup here, right? Like you walk in
mm,
and you're like, I don't have anybody who is my point of view as a
yeah,
human. And I think what we see very quickly is the bringing together when we first meet Thea, and Thea becomes, so Elle Fanning plays two synthetics. We're blowing it up. We're into
Yeah.
spoiler territory. Two synthetics. One, and they're both from the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. They're there to try to capture and effectively do what Weyland-Yutani always does, which is like alien stuff to make things in the human world better or more life or medical stuff. It never really matters, right? Weyland-Yutani is a terrible corporation that goes to places, pillages and plunders them, and it tries to make money off of it. And they're here doing it again, right? Like, so I love that. I love the fact that it's like you see the name Weyland-Yutani and you're like, jerks, they're here to try. What are they harvesting, right? Like,
Yeah.
and you realize they're trying to harvest the thing that is the main creature because of its properties. It has some uniqueness. What I love about this and what I loved about Prey is you saw that I am a process person, right? I
Mhm.
love in my life, I spend so much time trying to think about how we got somewhere, how something was created.
Yeah.
What Prey did and what Predator Badlands do is we watch someone learn how to be a great hunter, right?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
Prey, we watch her learn how the predator hunts. What
Yeah.
is the Yautja's approach? Because she sees many people and many creatures die at its hands. So she learns, right? How do I acknowledge that this creature is great, yet I need to kill it? And I
Mhm.
think we watch in this movie Deck learn by getting his ass kicked by a planet over and over again, that there's a whole lot of stuff at this planet that he can leverage to become a better predator. And it's not just his physicality. He
Yeah.
uses the ultimate weapon that the Yautja tend to not use, which is his mind, right? He is
Yeah.
outthinking his opponent. And usually the Yautja don't have to do that. They have the physical nature. They have their invisibility cloak, which is also a cool thing that's been brought into the universe here, that you have to earn your cloak, right? You have to go and you have to claim what a trophy is going to be, and you have to bring back a trophy of that kill to your clan before you get your invisibility cloak.
Yeah.
I think that's an unbelievable component of like adding to the lore of the Yautja, right? Like, and we also have never heard the language, right? Like, we've heard snippets of it, but we now have a full language that was created for
Yeah.
this movie.
To go on to hop onto your point about seeing Deck think that he's so ironclad in his beliefs and what it is to be a Yautja and
Mhm.
part of a do they call it a clan or do they call it a
Yeah,
tribe?
it's clan.
Yeah, so he was so ironclad in his beliefs, and just to see actually them kind of get chipped away and him to evolve almost past to be enlightened. It's not that
Yes.
it's like he is ascending past what it is to be a Yautja. Spoilers, but he creates a new clan of his
Yeah.
own. And yeah, like the dialogue was so well done, where
Yeah.
Deck and Thea are like, just their interactions where like he's so hard headed and she's trying to be subtle and try to like kind of draw out of him the things that like she thinks are unnecessary, or like you can think a different way, and he's just like so hard headed, and to kind of see that dissipate, and then to kind of there's just like so many really amazing moments in the movie. And like, so the best way I love to watch Prey is with the dub that they are speaking in their
In
indigenous,
Comanche.
yeah, in Comanche. I
Yeah.
love that version because like you definitely have to focus on a lot of like facial expressions, and you just like, I was drawn more in. The same thing with this. It's like Deck never speaks English, obviously.
Yep.
um
And I love the fact that the universal translator, right? Thea can speak and speaks in English, so we understand it, but we don't hear his version in English.
mhm.
I think the choice of allowing it to stay in the Yautja language and us to have to read subtitles is a brilliant choice to bring us in,
Yeah,
because Thea is in a physical humanity that we can recognize. He
yeah,
still is not. So it's almost like the universal translator is for humanoids
yeah,
and not for, right. So I think it's a really great choice. We've been dancing around Deck as a character, but Deck's physicality was handled by Save me. Demetrius Schuster Kola Tangi,
Hmm.
and his physicality is amazing. What he's able to bring to this character through a combination of like there is a little bit of physical mask and a little bit of CGI for the face. So you get a little bit of reality in his eyes and a little bit
Yeah.
of the creature, but all the physicality of the creature is him.
Yeah.
Like he is like doing so many things to give you a sense of like we understand what a Yautja can be because of what he's doing, you know?
Yeah.
And we watch him learning through this process, and you can see his physicality change from his initial fight where he gets kicked onto the ship, right? Like, and how unconfident he is in his abilities to him at the end of the movie where you're like, oh, he's totally become a badass.
Yeah.
Like, and the badassery is in his head. It's not, he hasn't physically changed. He is now, I know who I am and I know what I bring that's different, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Watching some of the behind the scenes footage, yeah, he was like head to toe in a Yautja costume, and then they hollowed out the face, so like his mouth, his nose, and his eyes were all available for acting with Elle Fanning. Yeah, it's Elle
Yeah.
Fanning. Yeah.
Yep.
So they were, but he like all the line deliveries are him. He learned the language for the movie. I think it is so important that we see his eyes and that they were able on set to kind of like not mask his eyes under a mask. I think my favorite thing one of my favorite things that's kind of happening is there seems to be a little bit of a TikTok trend where people are watching the movie and then they're just like, wait, why am I attracted to this predator?
Yes. Yeah, it seems like there's a TikTok trend of sexual awakening to Yautjas. That's
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And also the other one to call out is that Demetrius here also voices the father. So the father Yautja that never gets a name. So not only is he physically Deck and also the voice of Deck, but he's also doing another voice role, which is pretty unreal for like he's got a relatively short IMDb. It's mostly been television, but to be given the chance to be like a co-lead with Elle Fanning in a movie like this is unreal. Like he's doing such good work here and so competently, right? Everything that you see in this, Elle Fanning arrives fully formed. Like I'm such an Elle Fanning stan. I think she's one of my favorite actresses that doesn't get enough credit for the types of stuff she does. She does so much populist and fun work that I don't think she's ever given credit for being a great actress. And I think what you get from her always is you get whatever the character needs and whatever she can bring special to a character, you get out of Elle Fanning. So whether that is like the sort of fun, over the top confidence in the great and the physical ability to play a character who's in corsets and still has a humanity to her, right? Like there's something that Elle brings to those characters that I think is really fascinating. There's a humanity to everything that Elle does, and having her play a synthetic is interesting because they have to acknowledge that in the script that there's empathy in these characters so they can take advantage of the creatures they come across, because you can't turn that off in Elle Fanning, right?
Yeah.
Like if you hire Elle Fanning, what you want is Elle Fanning, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a reason she gets cast in these types of roles. She has this ability to make things believable and grounded and fun. And even in the other version of her, the Tessa version, you get the sort of cold Terminator-like aspect because that's what that character needs, right? And
yeah.
her malleability is on display by her playing these two characters. And I think you get a chance to see two sides of Elle that you don't get to see together ever. So it's cool to bring them together in this movie. You get the sort of two ends of the spectrum that you get out of an Elle Fanning.
Yeah, and I kudos to her performance in both the characters I felt were very complex and very different. And then kudos to the design team. There were a lot of times I was like, wait, what? How are they making her look so different? Like,
yeah,
I think it was very helpful that what's the quote unquote bad one's name?
Tessa.
I thought it was really helpful that they bleached her eyebrows, so there was a little bit of a it just seemed she was a little you had to examine her face a little more, where like having very dark expressive eyebrows like Thea did was more endearing, and I thought it was really good. The
It's
thing,
almost like puppeteering, right? Like in puppeteering, you lose the physicality depend if the puppet doesn't have eyebrows and doesn't have the ability to scrunch a nose, right? Like those things are where the emotion comes from. That's
right?
why
Yeah.
things like Pinocchio, right? Like the Guillermo where it is a wooden creature, like the fact that it's a wooden puppet, the way that it is made, even in the digitization, right? You
Hmm.
get a lack of movement, so you have to do more with the mouth and with the eyes, right? In this case, not having the eyebrows be as recognizable, you get this stillness in Tessa, like a
Yeah.
much more cold feeling out of the character because of that choice. And then
Yeah.
having the eye also be sort of a discolored version of the eye makes Elle feel less human. Whereas
Hmm.
when you cut to Thea for the first time, yes, there's half a body, but she's like flailing and her like everything is expressive. It's all like emotion coming out in physicality. Whereas Tessa, they cut to and there's like a cold, like reserved nature in the communication. And also Tessa's communicating with Mother, right? Like the sort of
Hmm.
all powerful running of the Wayland Yutani Corporation. So there's a coldness in those interactions because it's just Tessa and Mother, whereas like Thea is trying to communicate with creatures, right? Like is
Yeah.
like I met a new creature. Deck is crazy, like
Yeah.
oh you're a Yautja, that's exciting, like
Yeah.
oh you think you're the only one here hunting. Oh sorry, I don't think you stand a chance,
Yeah.
and it's just that sort of the also the way the character's written, the banter that Elle confidently just spews as the like it's the Peter Parker I never shut up while I'm in the middle of a fight. Like Thea just is constantly talking and commenting on everything around it. So even though we have Deck not communicating and trying desperately to just be a Yautja, like he's not allowed. Like Thea is like pulling a humanity or a fun, like pulling so much so that we get a joke from Deck,
Yeah.
like almost 2 hours into the movie, and you're like, is that a joke? Like she even points at it, like, did you just make a joke? And that's really fun. Like you get a
Yeah.
chance to see, so that's the part of like building the clan is that like Thea is this never stop, nonstop chatterbox, and Deck is just like never been exposed to something like a Thea. And I think that's the fun part of it is you see the growth in the character. And Thea is also learning the whole time as a synthetic, right? Like is learning about the world is like commenting on the fact that like, oh, that's gonna suck. You shouldn't do that. Like and
Yeah.
it's a little bit of the droid component, right? Like a little C3PO. And with the three of them, you get a little bit of like Luke and C3PO and R2D2
Mm.
because the other creature that we run into and that we meet, Bud, is what they
Think
nickname
so.
him.
Yeah.
Isn't that what Elle nicknames him?
I think so.
Or sorry, Thea nicknames. So it's a little bit of like a silent creature that sometimes coos and makes noises and looks up to Deck as a killer. So you get that R2D2 nature of like you can only see it react.
Yeah.
Right. So you get the sort of constant talking of a C3PO, you get and then you get Deck who's just like annoyed by it all and also trying to like model what it is to be a good killer for Bud. He realizes, I think his role is like a little bit mentor. And even though it's a reluctant mentor, I think it's so much fun to see someone like Dan Trachtenberg, who is a genre lover, who has commented on it as a podcaster, has grown up watching the same movies that you and I watched, getting to make those movies.
Yeah.
Right. That's another piece of this is like, I have a relationship with Dan because I've a parasocial relationship. I've been around him and I've listened to him talk so much so that like when you are a podcast person, right, you're in your ears, you're like super close, there's a whole sentimentality that I have for his movies that I don't think I would have with another director.
Yeah.
And I think that plays into it,
Yeah. Yeah. I want to talk. I want to talk a little bit about Death Planet a little bit. I was so impressed with the amount of detail they put into it. All the obstacles that they deal with seem incredibly. For some reason, like I was like, yeah, that's totally feasible in like nature, but it just doesn't happen on Earth. And all the wide shots. The thing I loved about this movie, whenever you see a wide shot, an extreme wide shot of Death Planet, there's always something killing something else.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was great.
That feels like a Star Wars thing, right? Like if you think back to like the Millennium Falcon getting out, right, of the creature's mouth and then something kill, like there's always been that sense in the Star Wars universe of like these planets are more dangerous than any other creature you're going to come across. Like there's
Yeah.
stuff on the, so it does feel a little bit like an homage to like those stories, you know,
Yeah.
the Flash Gordons and like it's obvious that there's a love and affection for all these touch points by the way that he shoots and creates these worlds.
Yeah.
But it's also like his sensibility in making these movies is more maximalist. It is
Hmm.
like these movies should tell us a bigger story. We have this grounded, smaller story with this trio, right? But then there's also the bigger world. He's creating worlds that allow us to see these creatures inhabit those worlds,
Yeah.
and they're fully fleshed out. So we feel it makes these characters feel more real. And as real as a character like a Yautja can feel, but like this is the most real the Yautjas have ever felt to me,
Yeah.
because we've spent so much time getting to know one Yautja, getting to know Deck, and also the idea of Wolf, right? Like
Hmm.
this is we're heading into Yautja history, right? Like
Hmm.
this is, I think, the creation of Wolf,
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
sure. Yeah.
Right. But like that is also bringing back an idea from the past that we like. I think that's also part of it, is like Dan knows everything that he's playing. He knows the sandbox so well, and he's not making it smaller. He's actually like adding little details and nuggets to the universe for the audience.
Yeah.
And I think like the idea of like when we saw in Predator 2, the old timey gun, right? Like that is a great thing to pull forward. Like, how did it get here? Well, we
Hmm.
didn't even see it coming in Prey, right?
Hmm.
Like, and so the first time you see that, you're like, oh man, that is cool. That is, so that was this Predator, right? Like, and I think there's some play in the universe of us getting to know more and more Predators personally. Yautja, right? Like now we
Yeah.
know Deck, and now
Yeah.
we know his dad is, head into full spoilers at the end. Like he goes back to his planet after surviving and wants to show that he is the warrior that he said he would be. And there's just no acknowledgement of any of that. It is literally like, kill on sight from his father. And he competently just wrecks everyone around him.
Yeah.
And it's because he is using his brain to know how they fight, because he knows them so well, and that he knows they're going to lean on their invisibility cloak because it's the
Hmm.
thing they have that he doesn't,
Yeah.
because he's seen them do it, right? Like, and I think it's great. And then with the movie ending with another ship arriving and him having to acknowledge, like, oh no, that's mom. Like that's we're in like amazing sequel territory before the movie even
Yeah.
comes.
And I would be very happy if they were to greenlight a sequel to this. Because like we've seen female Yautjas in video games and comic books, but never on the screen, really. So that'd be really exciting to kind of see that dynamic, and then also kind of like see the dynamic with like, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what a matriarchal, because I don't know if Yautjas are a matriarchal. They seem like a very patriarchal society, but maybe they're, I don't know.
I mean, maybe she's off just being a badass somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
Like we've never seen that side of the world, universe. But I think the last thing to point out here is like we now know that there's a synthetic in the Weyland-Yutani universe that is an Elle Fanning. So
Yeah.
I think there's like a great future state here where you see Elle Fanning in Alien movies
Yeah, that'd be
as a
cool.
possibility, right? Like she's now just another synthetic. So we have her, we have all of the past synthetics that exist in this universe. That's just yet another version of a robot, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I love the fact that we possibly have created the opportunity for Elle Fanning to return in other movies, whether it's the Tessa version or the Thea version or a third version. I'm excited to a future state where we may have an Alien movie that Elle drops into, even if it's not a large role, because of the fact that they were in this movie, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's just expanding. Again, we're expanding the universe, not contracting it. And I think that's what I love about this type of genre telling. If you're going to tap dance in between the raindrops, you need to tell me a whole story that expands the universe, that doesn't make that universe smaller. And I think he has done that successfully with Prey, and now with Predator, Killer of Killers, and now with Predator Badlands. He has not only given us more information, but he's also expanded the universe every time.
Yeah.
He's given us more playroom for the stories to be told instead of less.
Yeah. I'm so excited for the future because, like, as a huge fan of this character type from the get-go, it was always like, oh, well, if you want to see something more artistic, you will go watch an alien movie. But if you just want to see like a popcorn flick, just go watch Predator. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that Dan is like taking the care and consideration to kind of at least elevate the mythos of the Predator franchise. And I'm, as a longtime fan, super appreciative of.
I think what to play on the end of that, I think the reality I often will say is like, this is a big dumb popcorn movie, right? For
Mm,
movies like that. And this is not a big dumb, you don't have to check your brain at the door. You get
right.
the a feeling and the sense and the wonder and the awe and the spectacle, and you still get a story, and you get something cogent, and you get something that is making future stories possible, not just making a movie to make the next movie. He's making a movie that is enhancing the universe and adding more story to the universe, so there's a possibility of future story, as opposed to this movie ends with a car chase that is going to start at the beginning of the next movie. What we have is a creature is arriving at this moment, and whether or not we get that story, we know this story is complete.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It isn't like we just left on a cliffhanger. We have a fully formed, complete story with the dangle of a possible future story, as opposed to we're ending this movie driving to the next creature, right? Like,
Right.
what we get is a creature is arriving to a completed story. It
Mm-hmm.
seems like it's an interesting one, but the perspective for me is they're coming to him,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
as opposed to he's going to it, right? I have now established I am the badass, right, in the Yautja, in my clan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that should be where it ends. But the cool piece is when you write a story like this, you want the future possibility. So what is the natural progression of this? Well, his brother is dead. His father is dead. Well, there's got to be a Yautja mom, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so that's super cool that there's like, we have another story to tell. And whether or not we get that story, I feel fully satiated by the story we got.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to see it again. I just want to go back to the theater and see it again. And that's the thing. It's
Did you
like,
see it? How did you see it? Did you see it in sort of standard? What was your format?
I saw it in laser IMAX.
I also saw it in laser IMAX at an AMC.
Yeah.
The sound was just a last point. The sound mixing of the world was unreal.
Oh,
Like everything felt the combination of like the great score that was there, that
yes.
was really sort of filling in the sound of the universe. But like the mixing, like this is a movie that should get nominated for below the line stuff for sure.
Yes. The music is incredible. A lot of the vocals were done by this Mongolian like metal band.
Nice.
Who do a lot of like throat singing and their songs are in Mongolian. But you know, I believe, and they're speaking Yautja in this, but like there's like that gutter stuff, and it's so good.
That's great.
Yeah,
I'm glad we mentioned it because I know you're a person who always pays attention to those details. So having you here, I'm like, if I say something about the sound, it's probably going to lead to something great. So there you go. You got a glimpse inside of Robbie's head when he's talking to John. All right. So I walk away from this. I'm at a 4 stars. I had such a great time with it. I think it grew the universe for me, and it brought an actress who I really love to a genre that she hasn't yet gotten to play in, and also possibly future versions of this genre, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
You have any closing thoughts, or are we out?
No, 4.5 for me. Definitely gonna see it again, and super excited to be able to talk to you about it.
Nice. All right, so we're gonna close it out there. You can follow John. Where can everybody find you, John?
On any of the social medias, if I'm on it, it's at JONHOCHE.
And I'm Robbie the Geek everywhere, and we are geekonfilm.com or geekonfilm.com, depending on the social network. But super excited to have gotten a chance to catch up with John and also talk about a movie that I knew would be in his wheelhouse. So this has been super fun. Thank you so much, John, for jumping on.
Oh, my pleasure.
Talk to you next time. Go to the movies.
Go to the movies.
This has been a Geek on